All right, today we're jumping into something really wild. It's a suburban spy story from Katy, Texas. One man's incredible mission to reverse engineer his own reality because he's convinced there's a secret war happening right under his nose. So, this whole thing really kicks off with one single bizarre moment. A moment he's sure wasn't just some random accident, but a carefully planned high-tech trap that was designed to take him right off the playing field. He actually calls this incident a ruse, and honestly, it's the perfect way to understand his whole theory. For him, this wasn't bad luck. No, it was a calculated move in a secret game of suburban spy versus spy. Okay, so he breaks it down into 4 steps. Just picture this. You're driving, and suddenly you feel a big bump from behind. You pull over, thinking your roof antenna is damaged. You get out, shut the door, and the second it closes, beep, the car locks. But and this is the whole point, he had, just by instinct, grabbed his keys. He believes he dodged a bullet, foiling a trap that was perfectly designed to leave him stranded, while his car, with the engine running, got impounded by his main adversary, a guy named Phil Denning. So you have to ask, how is that even possible? Well, his theory is pretty chilling. He's convinced this was a targeted attack. He believes his adversaries had already captured his car remote's radio frequency, basically cloning it so they could trigger the locks at the exact right second. But that just leads to the next big question, right? Why? Why go to all that trouble just to get his car towed? Well, according to him, the answer is sitting right on his roof. See, they weren't after the car, they were after the antenna. He actually calls himself a data collector. Apparently, he was inspired by these stories of telecom engineers who drive around in vans with antennas to check signal strength. So he basically turned his own car, which he calls the Cole Mobile, into a rolling data gathering station, all thanks to this powerful super ear antenna. And he thinks this setup is so good, so effective, that it's made his enemies totally desperate. He's pretty sure that his ability to listen in has forced them to completely change their game, to rethink their entire strategy. So let's follow the breadcrumbs here, because all this data collection led him to a pretty massive discovery, a coordinated group of vehicles that he calls the Swarm. He claims that ever since he installed that super ear, the Swarm's behavior has totally changed, and he says he's got the software logs to prove it. Before, it was just average cars following him too closely. But now, it's a whole different story. We're talking huge trucks, and they keep this massive 200 or 300-foot buffer zone around him, sending just one vehicle at a time to pass. It's like a brand new defensive playbook. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Through just trial and error, he stumbled upon what he calls the cruise control principle. Turns out, the secret to capturing really high-precision signals is to move at a perfectly constant speed. And the best way to do that? You guessed it, cruise control. And here's the genius of his theory. How do you spot the Swarm? He says their own tech is a dead giveaway. His systems can flag them because their speed is, well, it's too perfect. It's the clear signature of a computer controlling the car, not a person. As he puts it so perfectly, it's one computer watching another behave like a computer. So that whole cruise control thing, that wasn't just some small detail. It was the key that unlocked his entire grand theory, that the physical layout of his suburb wasn't designed by accident. It was engineered to be a massive defensive system. For instance, he points to the Lake Point Estates neighborhood. He says, go ahead, try to use cruise control there. You can't. And why not? Because the roads have these tiny, subtle carves built in every couple hundred feet, just enough to make you constantly tap the brakes, breaking that perfect speed you need for data collection. The roads themselves are a countermeasure. And this defense system, he argues, doesn't just stop at the street. Nope, it goes all the way up to the roofs of the houses. Okay, check this out, because this is where it gets really wild. He believes the houses have roofs made of a special material that reflects radio signals. So a signal comes down from a satellite, hits the roof, and bam! The entire roof acts like a giant parabolic dish. It focuses that signal and bounces it down into a satellite receiver mounted really low. The house is the antenna. So what you end up with is this really clever 2-tiered system. You've got satellite for the long-distance communication, beaming data into the neighborhood. And then, for ground-level stuff, they use short-range near-fields communication, or NFC, to securely pass that data between cars and other houses. But here's the thing about a system this complicated. It's got weak spots.
And he believes those flaws are the key to cracking the whole code and unmasking the entire network.
He says there are two major weaknesses. First off, by reflecting those signals downwards, the houses are basically broadcasting their data to anyone on the street who's listening with the right gear. And second, by sending the same info over two different channels, satellite and NFC, with different encryption, they've created a huge cryptographic vulnerability just waiting to be exploited. So using these clues, he's basically put together a field guide for spotting these supposed agents. We're talking things like satellite dishes mounted way down low to the ground for extra security, or houses that don't have pools to avoid having a pool guy show up every week, and most importantly, a very specific kind of license plate. And out of all the clues, he says the license plate is the real smoking gun. He has this whole theory that these black plates, specifically with the letter B or G, aren't random at all. He thinks those letters act as anchors for a longer hidden ID, marking what he claims are literally thousands of high-level operatives scattered all across the globe. So when you step back, the key takeaway is this. By choosing to see his world not as random, but as a system that can be reverse engineered, everything starts to click into place for him. A car door locking, the curve in a road, it all fits a perfectly logical, coherent story. His reality is decoded. And that leaves us with one final, provocative question to chew on. What patterns might start to emerge if you began to view your world as a system just waiting to be understood?